Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Cantor, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom to you.
So glad to be with you. I'm so glad that all of you are here with us tonight from wherever you are. It feels really good to know that we're here together. If you haven't yet had a chance to let us know that you're here by sharing your name with us in the Facebook chat, please do that. It feels really good to us to know that you're here, to know who we're praying with tonight. The Torah portion for this week is called Beha'alotecha, which means something like when you raise up, when you lift up. And my hope for all of us tonight is that this is a service that lifts us up, and I hope that it gives us a chance to identify the things that we need to lift up in prayer, in our hearts, and in the warmth of community. This gathering makes it possible for us to lift things that we couldn't carry on our own. So I'm glad that we're here together to do the work of lifting up the things that are holy and the things that are difficult. And so in that spirit, we're going to do again this week what we've done in the past, which is to invite you to chime in on the Facebook chat, to share what's in your mind and on your heart. This week, I want to invite you to do something that may be a little bit challenging. I want to invite you to be brave and share with us in the chat something that you've been struggling with this week. Maybe there's something that's been hard, that's been challenging. But if there's something you're willing to share with this community of prayer, type it into the Facebook chat there. Let us know what you've been struggling this week so that we can include you and your spiritual struggles in our prayers as well. So, friends, given that instruction, as we move forward to the prayers of our service, which, as we do each week, we will share with you on the screen here. If you've got a copy of our prayer book and can follow along there as well, that will be possible. But we're going to begin this evening with the lighting of Shabbat candles to make our way into the service together. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. And I hope if you're lighting at home, we can light together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
So we welcome Shabbat with song. We sing Lechu Neranana together.
Yeah.
we continue welcoming Shabbat with Lecha Dodi, welcoming Shabbat like a bride. Lecha Dodi, likrat Hala, b'nei Shabbat, ekavela. Lecha Dodi, likrat Hala, b'nei Shabbat, ekavela. Shamor v'zachor b'divorecha, ishmi'anu el ha'echad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, v'shemo tiferet v'yidila. Lecha Dodi, likrat Hala, b'nei Shabbat, ekavela. Lecha Dodi, likrat Hala, b'nei Shabbat, ekavela. Likrat Shabbat v'chor v'necha, ki mekor ha'bracha, merosh mikedem ha'nesuva, sof ha'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha Dodi, likrat Hala, b'nei Shabbat, ekavela. Lecha Dodi, likrat Hala, b'nei Shabbat, ekavela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, ki ba'orech u'ri uri shedaberi, kivod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha Dodi, likrat Hala, b'nei Shabbat, ekavela. Lecha Dodi, likrat Hala, b'nei Shabbat, ekavela. And now I invite you to rise and face the entrance of the room you are in, and just imagine that Shabbat just whooshing in. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha u'betzola, toch emunei am segula. Boi chela, boi chela. Lecha Dodi, likrat Hala, b'nei Shabbat, ekavela. Lecha Dodi, likrat Hala, b'nei Shabbat, ekavela.
Continuing now with the Baruch Hu, the call to worship, now is the time for us to attune our hearts and our ears to the things that are calling to us. What's calling to us to devote our hearts and our thoughts to, what's calling to us from within and from without. As we turn ourselves to listen to that call, we prepare to pray.
Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. There's no slide for this one. Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai, ha'mevorach, Baruch Adonai ha'mevorach, le'olam va'ed, le'olam, le'olam that speak the evening into being. Sing with me. Ba 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 ba. The sun's gone missing. The moon is whispering my name, but I have to listen close. The arc of its ascension commands my full attention. The sky provides a backdrop of purples and blues. Ba 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 ba. The light is fading, the night is waiting for you and me. Let's rearrange the stars. Baruch atah Adonai Amari Varavi.
These words of poetry as we prepare our hearts for the Shema, a poem called Blessing the Boats by Lucille Clifton. May the tide that is entering, even now, the lip of our understanding, carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever, and may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. We continue with Ve'ahavta, which can be found in the book on page 36, and if you are standing, you may be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha ve'shinantam levanecha ve'dibarta bam Beshivtecha bevetecha uvlechtecha vaderech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam lehot al yadecha vehayu letotafot beineinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvishearecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
I want to thank those of you that took a moment to share with us some of the things that you're struggling about this week. Just to mention a couple of them. Deborah, I see your mention that you've been struggling with lack of sleep. I feel like this epidemic of exhaustion is something that I'm hearing a lot. Our bodies and our souls and our hearts are so tired. It's hard to find a respite and the opportunity to recharge. I hope that for you, Shabbat this week is an opportunity to regain a bit of rest and find the energy restored that you need. I also see in a number of folks' comments from Joanne and from Madeline and from Phyllis, the struggle that you share of being isolated and separate from those you love, those that have been taken from us by death or just by the miles of distance that separate us from the people that we love. I know that that's the struggle that a lot of us share, and I hope that in the days ahead you'll find some comfort and find the consolation of knowing that the reality of love, from wherever it comes, can keep us company and bring us some relief from the struggles that we find in being separated from those that we love. Thank you, those of you that took a moment to share those struggles with us, and know that we want to make this place a place that you can bring your struggles and bring your celebrations at the same time. Thanks for sharing your prayers and your time and your thoughts with us this evening.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught. Before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it's eternal Egypt. There's a better place, a promised land, and the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there's no way to get from here to there, except by joining hands, marching together, singing
We move now to this beautiful musical interpretation of the Hashkivenu prayer, expressing our hope for love and understanding, a sense of kinship and connection between all of us as the sun goes down and Shabbat arrives. Our hope that God's presence in our midst and in our community will bring the bonds of connection and mutual responsibility ever tighter and ever more real in our lives.
And I just saw that the Manny family shared some good wishes, and we are thinking of them this weekend, sending our love. Don't mute, okay. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu leshalom. Hashkivenu Hashkivenu Veshalom Vehamidenu Shomrenu Lechayim Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Hashkivenu Leshalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
It's now time for us to move into the Amidah, into the central section of this service. If you're in a space where you're able to rise for these prayers, I invite you to do so. Even if you're not, now's a chance to take a deep breath, to center ourselves and organize our thoughts as we prepare to come together in prayer. If you're following along in Mishkan Tefillah, the Amidah begins on page 46. We rise as we are able.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chastei Avot V'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah. Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol ata Rav leHoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Berofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Baal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'nemanata lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'il hakadosh.
Before we proceed with Shalom Rav, the prayer asking for tranquility and peace, we'll take a moment to offer a different sort of prayer, a prayer asking that we should be unsettled, that we should not find rest and complacency when the world demands it of us. Disturb us, Adonai. Ruffle us from our complacency. Make us dissatisfied. Dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of humans. Shock us, Adonai. Deny to us the false Shabbat which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred. Wake us, O God, and shake us, from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears. Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality. Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu Shalom Rav HaYisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav HaYisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובחושך בשלומך. Shalom Rav HaYisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav HaYisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. We take a moment now for silent prayer. couldn't hear you singing, Rabbi, but I could feel you.
I was singing.
I
We're
know.
going to turn now to a prayer for healing. This is a time it seems that this prayer is even more relevant and important and timely than it is at other times during the year. Healing takes a lot of different forms, obviously, but this is the time that we want to specifically think about the healing of bodies and minds and spirits and hearts of those that are in the embrace of our congregation and those cared for and cared about by our holy community. So on this Shabbat, we're offering this prayer on behalf of David Askenaz, Bradley Borden, Melba Berman, Jennifer Carey, Michelle Cohen, Miles Cohn, David Kottner, Maya Creeder, Richard Dana, Roseanne Finkel, Jerry Hooks, Sarah James, Lori Lee, Lawrence Levy, Velma Lingo, Paul, Nakia Martin, Melinda Scholar, Angelica Taylor, Marcia Trishida, Roger Williams, Chaim Leibish Velvo Ben Sheva, Gelko Nechama Bat Liba Chaya, and all of those who are suffering with physical illness, emotional distress, and pain within our congregation and beyond it.
These words we sing tonight come from this week's Torah portion, the Ha'alotcha that Rabbi Hayon spoke about earlier. And they come from this part of the portion when Moses' sister Miriam has been stricken with illness, and he witnesses this, and he can't bear to see her in this pain. It was physical pain, it was spiritual pain, and these words pour out of him, these words that aren't perfect and sort of not even grammatically correct, but they just pour out the way they are, and teaching us that prayer does not have to be perfect. Prayer needs to be from the heart to be meaningful. So I hope that you'll repeat these words after me. Each line you'll repeat after me. Dear God of our ancestors, dear God of our ancestors, help us renew our faith, help us renew our faith. Grant us perfect healing, grant us perfect healing. Bring peace to all our days, bring peace to all our days. And God, please heal her. Please heal us. Restore our strength of body. Restore our strength of body. Help clarify our minds. Help clarify our minds. Refresh our tired spirits. Refresh our tired spirits. Rejuvenate our light. Rejuvenate our light. And thank you for all these blessings. Thank you for all these blessings. Throughout our days and nights. Throughout our days and nights. We celebrate the journey. We celebrate the journey. This precious gift of life. This precious gift of life. And
So beautiful. I want to offer a word of thanks to Nathan Malik, who is helping us behind the scenes with with the tech of our service tonight. I know you can't see him, but we know he's here, and we're really grateful for him being here. His work tonight helps make it possible for all of you to see us and be a part of the service, and we're deeply grateful to him. A few notes about the calendar in the days ahead. This coming Wednesday at 12 noon, our program director extraordinaire, Jason Plotkin, will be interviewing Chris Harrison, who is a writer for the Union for Reform Judaism. Chris, in case you haven't been familiar with his work, Chris has been writing about his own experiences and those of other Jews of color during these days of tragedy and upheaval and uncertainty and fear. It's going to be an amazing conversation. If you have the opportunity before Wednesday to do a bit of reading of Chris's work, I know you'll enjoy it, but please do mark your calendar for Wednesday at noon. And you can follow that conversation in the same place you're following this service tonight, on Facebook or on our streaming page. Please make a point of joining us for that. I want to also invite you personally to join me and Stephanie Carlson, our Director of Congregational Learning, for a video short and a conversation that will be held over Zoom. The topic and the title of our conversation will be Voices of Jews of Color. And there are going to be two separate opportunities. The video will be the same, but two separate opportunities to fit with folks' different calendar needs. Wednesday, June 17th at 7:30, and Friday, June 19th at 12:30. So that's next Wednesday at 7:30 in the evening, next Friday at 12:30 in the middle of the day. Those guided conversations will be held by Zoom, and they'll be an important first step, I think, so that we can process our thoughts and feelings and potential action steps so that we can respond to the crisis of racial injustice in our country as individuals and as a community. Please make a point of joining us to join the conversation. This is a very important place for us to start together. Lastly, a reminder that our clergy team and staff are here for you now and always. If you need pastoral support or need assistance from a member of our team, please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know how we can do our best to be a helping hand to you. And now I want to share a word or two about our Torah portion this week. This week our portion, as I mentioned to you, is called B'Ha'alotecha. And the portion from the book of Numbers brings us a scene which is quite familiar from the context of that book of the Torah. The Israelites are making their way through the wilderness, wandering through the desert, trying to make their way to the promised land, and they're complaining. So much of the book of Numbers is occupied by the Israelites' complaints. This time, the subject of their complaints is their hunger. The Israelites are racked by hunger pangs, fearful for their own survival. And so to respond to their hunger, God has provided them with a miracle. The appearance of manna in the desert. Wondrous, miraculous food that will sustain their bodies as they make their way on their march toward the promised land. So the manna arrives and sustains their starving bodies, but no sooner are the Israelites fed and their bodies revived than they start complaining once again. Now their complaint is that they're sick of manna. They're sick and tired of having to eat the food that God has created for them out of thin air. And so the Israelites organize themselves together, band together, and rise up against Moses, shouting and complaining that if only they could go back to Egypt, things would be so much better. Now just remember and marvel at this sort of complaint that the Israelites are leveling against their leader. They're just barely on the other side of the Red Sea, just barely secure in their freedom from slavery. And so the perspective of these newly liberated Israelites should shock us. If only we could go back to Egypt, they say. Can you imagine? If only we could return to the good old days, when we could rely on the agriculture and the infrastructure of the pharaohs. Maybe things would be better than they are now. Well, as you might expect, God responds quickly and furiously. God rages against them, indignant and disbelieving. On the one hand, God is angry because God recognizes that the people's desire to go back from Egypt to Egypt has arisen from their insubordination, from their lack of faith in God's ability to provide for them. But it's also because God is seeing firsthand a new vulnerability in the human condition. Human desire is so powerful, human appetites are so strong that they can overpower our rational brains. Our hunger can convince us to rationalize decisions that we know intellectually are wrong. It's so irrational, so counterproductive, that we can practically hear God sputtering with frustration through the words of the Torah. What is the matter with you? How faulty can your memory be? How is it conceivable that because of today's temporary desires and hungers, you're willing to glorify an empire of wickedness and oppression? How can you really be yearning to go back to your lives as slaves? No matter how hungry you are today, how can that possibly move you to respond with a willingness to ignore or distort your history? Egypt is a symbol of the lowest moment in our spiritual evolution, the bleakest, most hopeless period in the Torah's history. To be a Jew definitionally means that you cannot want to go back to Egypt. You cannot desire to go back to the site of your slavery and suffering and denigration. Our history, our memory, is so valuable and precious that we are explicitly commanded again and again. You must remember. You cannot forget. For a Jew to distort history is an act tantamount to apostasy and idolatry. This week, in our city, our mayor, Sylvester Turner, made an announcement that I believe has been long overdue. And he's decided that in the next week or so, our city will set about removing 2 statues in Houston that were erected to pay tribute to the Confederacy. As I said, I'm surprised that it took us this long to commit to remove or relocate these monuments, and I welcome the mayor's announcement, was thrilled to hear it when it came out just the other day. But unsurprisingly, maybe not everyone in Houston agrees with me or with Mayor Turner, and his announcement has been met from some corners with the familiar argument that you may have heard. The decision to remove Confederate statues is an undemocratic move, born out of the desire to erase American history and distort American heritage. I'll talk a little bit more about that perspective in a second, but the first thing I want to share is that, as many of you probably knew already, one of the 2 statues in question is right here, barely a mile from our synagogue. It's such a strange thing when I consider that a symbol of the Confederacy was placed just steps from Emanu, where it has been kept and maintained for more than 60 years. But what's also strange and a little embarrassing is that I had no idea it was there until it was pointed out to me. I knew the statue by sight, of course. I've passed by it a million times while walking through Herman Park, but it's such a strange sensation to have been utterly oblivious to what it stood for so long. Maybe some of you have had the same experience I have over the past couple of weeks, that your eyes have been opened wider, as mine have, to the presence of racism and marginalization that pervade our public lives. The way that I'd seen that white marble statue, but looked right past it, was an example of my own blindness to the well-established but ultimately unjust systems that underlie so much of our lives today. It's kind of similar to the way when you first learned about photosynthesis or the electrical grid. All of a sudden you become aware of and attuned to powerful but invisible systems, cycles that are constantly at work on and around us, even when we're not paying attention to them. Now that I know it's there, all sorts of questions arise for me. What must it be like to be a descendant of slaves living in Houston, driving past that statue? What does it feel like to walk past it on your way to a family picnic in the park or a day at the zoo with your kids? Now, I don't know what it's like, but I'm certainly spending some time this week imagining it. As I said earlier, the mayor's decision to remove the Confederate statues has been met with the argument that thoughtful, educated people ought to keep statues in place for the same reason that thoughtful, educated people don't burn books. To know and appreciate history, we ought to defend its relics, even if we've evolved past the political sympathies that put them there. So we should preserve the statues and monuments because through them we encounter and remember our past. Now that is a strong, tempting, compelling argument, but the problem with it is that it's totally wrong. It's wrong. Let's get real. The fact is that those grand marble statues and stately bronze plaques and somber memorial sculptures, they are not how we learn history. That's not the way that we become acquainted with historical figures. I've learned a lot about all kinds of historical personages. Genghis Khan and Galileo and Shakespeare and Stalin, and I haven't seen statues of any of them. So no, building statues is not an educational initiative. Putting up statues or sculptures of figures from the past isn't how we learn about who they were. Putting up sculptures is how we honor and glorify figures from the past. Yes, we should know about the Confederacy, and we should affirm our commitment as Americans to learn what we can about the men and women who fought to preserve the institution of slavery. Is it part of American history? Yes. Is it part of our history that we're proud of? I should hope not. I wouldn't want my kids to attend a Benedict Arnold high school, and we shouldn't want to devote public space to the celebration of men whose ideas and agendas stand in opposition to our national values. So if that's the case, why did so many of these statues go up in the first place? Well, I had assumed that most of them were put up during the Reconstruction as a way for cities and former Confederate territories to express their defiance against and resistance to the outcome of the Civil War. But I learned recently that that's not the case at all. In fact, very few Confederate statues went up during Reconstruction. And actually, many of them started popping up at a very dramatic rate not until the 1950s and 1960s. Now, this surging rush to memorialize the Confederacy wasn't an accident. It took place immediately after two major milestones in our nation's history. When the Supreme Court decided Brown versus Board of Education in 1954, and when the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964. So now, seeing the pattern of Confederate fetishism from that perspective, viewing it in context of the evolution of civil rights in America, it becomes even more clear and even more upsetting about the placement of Confederate statues in American cities. It wasn't done as an initiative to educate Americans about the Civil War. It was done as part of a reaction against our nation's progress toward racial equality. And, incidentally, it also helps explain why there are so many of them in formerly Union states. So we can track and trace the vertical spike in the number of American public schools being named for Confederate generals immediately after the Supreme Court ruled that the segregation of schools was unconstitutional. By doing so, we can see in a fresh way why those memorials were erected in the first place and why they were preserved for so long. Removing these statues and memorials, effacing the names of Confederate officials and soldiers and officers from our public spaces, it is the right thing to do because it symbolizes our commitment as a city and as a nation that we will refuse, from here on out, to publicly lionize and glorify those who fought and died to preserve the institution of slavery. Back to the words of the Torah. God wants us to remember. That is undeniable. It's repeated over and over again. You must remember, you cannot forget. But when we repeat that mantra, we shouldn't overlook its deeper meaning. Yes, it is a Jewish value to remember. But that doesn't mean that what God wants most is for us to memorize lists of names and dates and places. That's not what history means to us. For us Jews, the point is not just to know what the past was, but what the past means. History is not morally neutral. The reason the Torah commands us again and again to remember and not to forget is because the things that we went through, the places we lived, the people we were, is what makes us who we are. In this week's portion, when the Israelites complain about their hunger in the wilderness, when they express their unthinkable yearning to go back to Egypt because they are drawn by their bellies and by the rosy glow of historical revisionism, God tells them, no, you cannot go back. Even if things are hard, even if you're hungry, you are not permitted to let your discomfort with the way things are now move you to delete and revise history. God forbids them to return to Egypt because God refuses to rehabilitate the legacy of Pharaoh. The horrors of slavery are too egregious, too painful to be revised. God tells them, don't let your discomfort with the struggles of the present lead you to misjudge the moral valence of the past. Don't fall into the temptation of romanticizing the days of your suffering and oppression. And instead of looking back, God says, move ahead. Keep striding forward, one step at a time. And when things are hard, don't misrepresent the past. Don't make of it a false idol. Instead, take your guidance and inspiration from the past so that we can use it to empower us, to assist us in going through the hard times and not navigating around them. That's why, my friends, I think the verse from the book of Micah, written on the wall of our holy sanctuary, doesn't end with two clauses: do justice and love mercy. It continues with the third line: we have to keep walking humbly with God. That verse reminds us of our job and our moral charge as Jews and as members of this holy nation, this people of conscience and morality. And so on this Shabbat, may we together continue to be guided by that charge from the past. May our hunger for justice, our commitment to mercy, and our dedication to keep walking forward, humbly and thoughtfully, lead us to be accompanied by the Holy One as we make our way together toward the land of promise that lies ahead. Amen.
Amen. I will do justice, speak up for those who are not free, like Abraham and Sarah, their words still speak in me. I will love mercy and the neighbor by my side, like Moses taught our people as he led us through the night. Ki masod mishpat ve'avat chesed ve'atznei halechet im Elohecha. Ki masod mishpat ve'avat chesed ve'atznei halechet im Elohecha. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, shevet achim gam yahad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, shevet achim gam yahad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, shevet achim gam yahad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, shevet achim gam yahad. I will walk humbly, I will learn and give and grow, like Ruth said to her people, where
So our past makes us who we are in the present, and those who accompanied us on our journey through the wilderness are the ones whose memory and whose legacy will lead us forward to a time of promise and light and redemption. And so, as we do our innermost preparations for Kaddish, our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, and those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We take just a moment now to do the sacred work of memory. And so now we think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. On this Shabbat, our hearts go out in sadness and sympathy to the families of Bernard Berman and Dr. Stanford Rosen, laid to rest in recent days. To their names we add these, the names of those whose yahrzeits fall at this season. Together we remember lovingly and tenderly the names of Ann Bamberger, Joseph Becker, Morton Berman, Hyman Bleckman, David W. Bowden, David Allen Bram, Michael Allen Brown, Bessie Cohen, Sheldon Cohen, Samuel Gordon Cohen, Sylvan Dubin, Francine Shirley Egalnick, Arthur Eisenberg, Irvin J. Farb, Herbert Fines, Fanny Kaplan Feld, Martin Feingold, Sarah Goldberg Finger, F.M. Frank, Ada Jane Fudman, Rose Valerie Gates, Pearl A. Gerson, Lawrence Putch Gerson, Rose Ginsburg, B.B. Gleason, Betty Wolf Goldberg, Sam H. Goldstein, A. Arthur Gottlieb, Albert Granoff, Boris Grinman, Rebecca Grover, Recha Hartman, Rosalind Roddy Hirsch, Forrest Lee Jackson, Isidore Cantor, Estelle Cass, Morris Kasdan, Harris Keller, Sophia Kogan, Joseph Krautkopf, Gordon Richard Landau, Francis Leibowitz, Samuel A. Lichter, Ryan Aaron Maidenberg, Sadie Fish Milasky, Ida Mormon, Mildred Nuger, Anita Payne, Simon Parnas, Fred J. Pauley, Benjamin Joseph Peters, Noah Rodriguez, Jack Romanoff, Mary Saltz Rosenfeld, Robert Rothenberg, Grace L. Salzberg, Mark Salzberg, Doris Clara Saunders, Mary Schaffner, Lester Richard Shallett, Roseanne Rose Schraber, Hirsch Schwartz, Maxine Seligman, Franklin Bernard Shapiro, Ida Slavin, Harry Smith, Jack Solomon, Sadie Solomon, Mary Spillane, William Barney Stolmack, Aileen Wilkenfeld Tiras, Irving Tofsky, Donna Cohen Terrell, Dennis Weiner, Donald Weiss, Golda Wertheimer Schulman, Dana Landy Wolf, and Mary Zainfeld. The memories of all of us are with us as we turn to the words of Kaddish and rise as we are able. If you're in our Mishkan Tefillah prayer book, the words of Kaddish are on page 294. We remember this week as well Kathleen Beverly Simmons. We continue with the words of Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, ve'alma divrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehe shmei Rabba mevarach le'alam l'olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha barichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama Rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Oseh shalom b'imromav. hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Amen. We move from Kaddish to Kiddush, and we bless together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzah.
We may have lost the Cantor, so we'll continue now as we conclude together this evening. It has been a pleasure and a delight to be with you, to celebrate Shabbat, to do the work of prayer and memory, togetherness and community on this Shabbat. It has been a joy to be with you. I hope that the weekend ahead brings you comfort and peace, tranquility, and the sort of disturbance that moves us toward goodness and peace and justice. Shabbat Shalom.